My microphone. I hope that make it better. Okay, I understand that people have said that there is a problem with the voice. Please let me know if you are hearing me now better than before. So I just changed the microphone that we had. Okay, perfect. I hear that. That's wonderful. I mean, we already have a lot of people watching us. So without further ado, I would like to invite my guest to the panel. We have, as I said, we have three distinguished panelists today. First, I would like to invite Mr. Joe Collier. Joe, welcome.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. Joe is the president of Mainsail Lodging and Development Company. I will ask him about his company in a little bit more detail in a second, but I'm very, very happy to have him here. Second, I would like to ask Mr. Plato Ginos to join us. Plato, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Plato is the president of Shaner Hotel Group. Last but not least, I would like to invite Randy Hassan from McKibben. Randy, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Randy Hassan is the president of McKibben Hospitality. These three gentlemen has a special place in my heart. As a university, my university, and also personally, I will just start very quick story about Plato. Plato is one of they are part owner and also management company for the University of Delaware's Marriott Courtyard. And when I was a faculty member before University of South Florida, he was amazing supportive, of course, to the university students, but to me personally, because we created together Extrum, experimental guest room at that hotel, and it created a lot of. So Plato, thank you for that support. And Joe is an amazing member of our advisory board, and also Greater Tampa area has many innovative hotels, mainly in Florida part, but also has been tremendous support to me personally and to our students and faculty. Epicurean Hotel in Tampa and many others. He has been hiring our students in those hotels. Joe, thank you also for that one as well too. And of course, Randy Hassan, last but not least, I've said McKibben has a very special place in University of South Florida's heart, and my personally, as you can see from the behind M3 Center, and I'm the McKibben Endowed Chair Professor. Randy's company is owned by John McKibben, who has made an amazing gift to our university, which enabled the M3 Center, which is also named one of his companies. But Randy, from day one that we have met with him, he's been an amazing supportive of our students, faculty, and myself. Many students have worked in the McKibben companies, including my son, actually. At the age of 15, he started his hospitality career at one of the McKibben hotels in Sarasota. So, Randy, I also would like to thank you so much for all the amazing support that you have given to us.
You are most welcome. It's been a great partnership.
Thank you. So we already have a lot of people watching us, and I would like to go and get started with my questions. And as usual, our audience, feel free to please write your questions for these three gentlemen about a very important topic that we are going to be talking today, hotel presence response, panel response to COVID. So first, gentlemen, I would like to start asking you, maybe in 1 minute or so, just tell about where is your company? What is your company? How many hotels you have? I know I've counted the numbers, but maybe you can tell us the last update right now. And how did COVID impacted your companies? And please tell us about the current situation. Joe, I'll start with you, please.
Okay, sure. So Mainset, we have 7 operating hotels now, and we have 6 hotels under construction. So we'll have 13 hotels by the middle of next year. In terms of COVID, gosh, we were, in Florida, peak season for us is pretty much February, March, April. Those are 3 really strong months for us. So we're cruising along at our properties at, mid 80s occupancy, really strong, or even higher in the case of Epicurean. And then all of a sudden this occurred and somebody flipped the switch, and we went from 80s and 90% occupancy to having 5 guests in the hotel, or having to kind of go through a close or no close decision, which we really never really have to have those kind of discussions unless there's a hurricane or something like that and you're having an emergency evacuation. You rarely have to sit down and go through the process of determining, are you going to close the hotel because it's so empty. So it was a lot of ripping off Band-Aids and determining how to furlough people, or having to because somebody turned off the cash register all at one time, unprecedented, and it was just kind of bizarre. And so until they started coming out with the PPP, the SBA funds, the payroll protection plan, it was difficult for everybody kind of figuring out, okay, well, how are we going to pay everybody? How are we going to pay debt service? How are we going to pay our property taxes and our utilities when we have literally no business in the hotels? So it's been unprecedented time. We've stabilized because of that, because of the PPP funds helped us really kind of get stabilized, and business has begun to creep up for us. We have mostly boutique hotels, so we don't have any big convention hotels. I suspect, and I don't think anybody on the call has really big convention hotels, 1,000 room, 1,500 room hotels where people need to come together in big groups to meet. Those hotels obviously don't have a lot of uptick right now, but the smaller hotels, staycations, and people that are, that are traveling in small groups, we're picking up some of that business right now.
Thank you, Joe. Plato, how about for Shaner Group?
Yeah, we have about 60 properties. We are spread in 17 states. We have property in the Bahamas, 2 in Italy, and 1 in Greece. So it was interesting. Was in Italy in February, getting ready to open up a new autograph property in Tuscany, in Lucca, Tuscany. So I remember the flight back. It was towards the end of February when the crisis started in Italy. And it was really weird flying on a plane that was at least half empty, coming back. And, the idea was, look, it's a Chinese problem. It's an Italian problem. It will never come to this shores. And 20 days later, here we are. I remember, I think it was March 16th, that Monday, it was like, that's the 9/11 on steroids. That's the way we defined it, where everything really started to collapse. We went from, it was a pity too, because January, February was a good month nationwide. We were doing better than budget, and then the whole thing just caved in. So we went, as Joe said, most of our hotels, were empty, and unfortunately we have 3-4 of the larger convention hotels, 400 or 500 rooms, and actually 2 of them are still closed. So again, it was a massive shock for the industry, for our properties, and there were a lot of sleepless nights trying to come up with a plan. Number one, keep everybody safe, keep the property safe, make decision. We never had pro formas before. Calculate, do we lose more money by being open, or do we lose more money by being shut down? So it's stuff for 30 plus years in this business. We never had to go through that exercise, and we're still going through it. So we're still learning. But right now, I would say 90% of our portfolio is open. We also face some situations. For example, Bahamas, we're still forced to be closed. Nobody's allowed into the island. Uh, in Key West, Florida, we just opened up again. The government forced us to shut down. They had roadblocks going to the Keys, so we were forced to be shut down for 2 months. Again, I never imagined that before. And as Joe said too, especially the southern states, March, April, May are maybe the strongest month of the year. So the financial beating was immense. Now, we are in a reopening stage, kind of readjustment stage. It's a whole new world. I think, like most of us, we have been negotiating and dealing more with the lenders than our customers or our general managers, trying to work out plans on how do we reopen, stabilize, and hopefully catch up to where we were last year.
Right, right. Plato, thank you so much. I mean, it's not easy. We always teach our students about crisis management, things in that nature, but I don't think that anybody in this world have ever thought about this kind of a crisis. Randy, how about for the McKibben Hospitality? How was the situation? And please tell us a little bit also about the portfolio that you have, how many hotels you have also, and the situation about the COVID.
Yes, under management, we've got about 80 hotels, primarily select service. In our footprints, mainly in the Southeast, majority are Hilton and Marriott, extended stay, Residence Inn, Homewoods, Hilton Garden Inns, Courtyards. We do have a Kimpton Heiress in Asheville and several AC hotels as well. We've got about 10 different ownership groups that we work with. And just like the gentleman, we were starting the year off very strong. It looks like good things were happening. We've got a high number of hotels in Florida. So with spring training and getting ready for WrestleMania and all of that, and then I was telling the story earlier that Plato and I were at a Marriott meeting in DC, and he had just come back from Italy, and the look on his face, and for him to tell me that their hotels went from 90% to 9% overnight, I knew it was a realistic reality that could happen here. But under my worst nightmares, I didn't think it would, but it did. Mid-March, the faucet shut off. We had to lay off close to 80% of our workforce company-wide, and then start the process of how do we keep the lights on? How do we respond to all of our ownership groups? How do we do workarounds with banks, apply for PPP loans? So doing a lot more work with little revenue and a lot less team puts a stress on everybody. We closed down approximately 12 hotels, and we're combined them if they were in a cluster to reduce operating costs. But we ran about 15% occupancy for April and under $100 rate. So quick math on it's a $15 RevPAR. You cannot make any money, and you can't even pay the bills or keep the staff at that level. Since then, we've stair-stepped up in May and June, but it's still not where we needed to be at a break even. So with the PPP funds and with workarounds with the banks, we've been there is light at the end of the tunnel. Leisure travelers starting to come back, especially in the leisure markets, and that is promising. And we're hoping third quarter, fourth quarter, we'll start to see some transient business demand return, but probably won't see group or smaller group or larger, even any conventions into next year.
Thank you, Randy. Since I have you, I would like to start my next question to you first. So COVID-19 hit us in March, right? Late March, I would say, and then maybe the beginning of April. In January, I remember that I was traveling in mid-March and we heard all that just like you were saying. And now COVID is here. It really hit all of your companies very hard, which is heartbreaking for us. Obviously, we are a hospitality college here at the University of South Florida. Of course, it's hard for our students as well, for the whole industry. But at the end of the day, life goes on, right? We all learn that. You, Plato, you said it very nicely. September 11th on steroids, right? So you realize that, and then you say, "Oh my God, we got to do something." So some of you decided to close some of the hotels, keep them open, and then you did a trade-off. But now that we kind of like going to the phase one reopening, phase two reopening, at least in America and other parts of the world, what are the things did you do as a hotel company as a response to COVID-19? Like, can you give us some examples of anything that you have done, any changes, how you operate, how you market your hotels? Randy, we'll start with you, if you don't mind, please.
Yes, we've been working closely, obviously, with the brands. They are we as McKibben, we're kind of the brand behind the brands. So we want to make sure we're complying with all brand standards. And so really, we kind of deconstructed the rooms to say, what are the high touch items in a room? How are we going to make sure we have confidence in our programming and our guests and our processes, the cleaning processes, the inspection process, that when the guest goes into that room, if they're touching something, it has been properly sanitized and they're not going to contract COVID. So a lot of that was removing a lot of the items in the room that were not a necessity. A lot of that is coming up with what are the proper cleaning chemicals and procedures and training that we need to do. But one of the immediate things that was done really across the board was not entering a room or cleaning a room until that guest had checked out. And that's kind of a big shift in the hotel business because we are such a high touch, high service industry, and we want to give our guests the best experience. And part of that was coming back to a clean room and a made bed and a clean shower. And but not having to do that has been an adjustment. It's helped on the cost side, but it's not really the way you want to save costs. And then, of course, the food and beverage operating model for the free to guest offerings. Any buffets have gone away. Anything high touch in the lobby, the frequency of cleaning. In the immediate, we had to shut down pools and workout rooms, but didn't do all the signage and plexiglass at the front desk to really create confidence that a guest is not going to contract COVID inside of our four walls. And our associates are certainly safe and protected and feel confident coming to work as well.
Confidence is a key word, as our research tells that people really want to feel confident when they travel. So Plato, how about you? What did you do? What kind of response did you have in Shaner Group in response to COVID in terms of how you operate and market your hotels?
Yeah, I think pretty much the same what Randy and McKibben have done. I think we're all doing the same thing. What's interesting now as business is trying to resurrect is how do you implement and how do you enforce? First with the employees, our associates, we test everybody's temperature when they come to work. They get a special wristband, daily, just to make sure, we have a good screening process from a guest perspective. We also bought those ThermoPass iPads where, we ran some busier restaurants or roof garden type bars. So we are encouraging the guests, to take the temperatures in, and I would say 99% it has been received pretty well by the customer. Again, I think what we're starting to see, and I think the topic of discussion in the next 6 months will be is enforceability. And there is a huge cultural and geographic divide. Obviously we have a divided nation in many ways, but it's wearing the mask. Half of our customers wear them, half of them don't, and you see conflict among guests. You see, how disciplined do you stay on social distancing? When you have a wedding. So it's a lot of issues are coming up, and there's a lot of, I think, confusion. There is a balancing act. We need to act as a hotelier, to keep the environment safe, the environment clean, but also peaceful. We had guests being really upset when we enforce them in, states like Connecticut or Pennsylvania, where it's mandatory for guests to wear a mask in the hotel. I think Florida it depends on the county you're in. People get upset and leave. So it's an interesting reaction. I think it's a learning curve, but I think there's enough educational and information out there. We have, the cleaning stations, the lotions out there, the plexiglass. But again, it's more monitoring the customer behavior. I think that's more of an issue. I think we're doing a good job to control our associates, our management team. Again, enforceability and what the future brings, it's a little bit unknown. But I think what we have mentioned before, the virus is here. It's going to be with us. We just need to learn how to live with it. Don't panic, but at the same time, behave responsibly.
Right. It's a very delicate balance there, right? I remember that I just visited recently a restaurant where the cashier who's taking the order, it was a fast casual place. She screamed at the guests to get out of the door. And it was not like, please go out. It was kind of like, you need to get out soon. Kind of like a little bit enforcing, but it was not well received by the guest, obviously. So it's very interesting. So normally you are obeying the rules for the benefit of the guest, but yet when you ask them to wear a mask, and some of them got upset and leave. Joe, how about you? What happened in terms of mainsail properties as a response to COVID-19? I know that obviously you probably have changed your cleaning practices. Do you want to tell us about what you have done?
Yeah, so we put together a core team of folks and kind of created our COVID task force. And I don't want to repeat a lot of the same things that these guys have said with the plexiglass and the cleaning. There's these electrostatic sprayers that I'm not really that big of a fan of, because basically you go in a hotel room and you spray chemical all over the hotel room, and then you come back in an hour later and wipe it down. Well, that's great for hard surfaces, but soft surfaces like bedspreads and pillows and headboards and things like that are soaking up that chemical. So there is some other technology that we've been investigating where it goes into the air system, and it's pretty high level stuff, but it's expensive. So the buy sell of and making that kind of capital investment while you're thinking, well, maybe if there's a vaccine a year from now, well, we have spent all that money doing that and people aren't going to care a year from now. I think some of the practices that we're doing now are going to be around for, I think, probably forever. Flu rates will probably go down, and I think people have learned a lot about hygiene and washing hands and that kind of thing now. But for our staff, I can tell, and we had some hospital people that we actually had come and stay in our hotels. They were not COVID patients, but they were working at like Tampa General Hospital, and they had to work late hours. And so we had an empty hotel. So I said, look, we want to help these frontline people out. They're tired. So we actually donated a floor for a month, or a little longer than that, actually. But when the hospital workers showed up with all of their garb on, they still had their scrubs on and their shields and all that. My staff was clearly startled by that. They're like, oh, these are all people, and they've got all this hospital garb on. It kind of freaked them out a little bit. So we've learned a lot through this in terms of what we're doing to make our staff feel comfortable, as well as the customers. We're not kind of in a position at this point where we're telling guests, stop, you don't have a mask on. That's not happening. Although in Tampa, the mayor of Tampa just put something out a few days ago that everyone that's out and about has to wear a mask in the city of Tampa. So some of the municipalities are kind of doing the heavy lifting for us. But kind of back to what Plato is saying, until people, we can only get so many staycationers until people are willing to get on airplanes and business travelers are kind of back at it. And I just came through Atlanta Airport. Just to give you an example, I just had, because of our time on this, I ran out of time and I had to pull into a Wyndham hotel in Atlanta. I've never been to this hotel before. I just came in and I'm just sitting in the restaurant. Here's the restaurant. It's completely vacant. The lobby, everything is completely vacant. So you have a big hotel. These guys have made a big investment in this place, and there's nobody here. They may have some hotel guests and some folks here, but I could walk around all the ballroom space, all the function space, everything is completely empty here. So the group activities and the food and beverage functions, and that's tough for us because our hotels are boutique hotels that are food and beverage centric, as opposed to a select service hotel where maybe it's a grab and go type thing. We've got rooftop bars and we have restaurants and we have culinary classrooms. We have all these things. So we're looking at ways on, and our guests are asking the question when they call, they're saying, is your food and beverage open? And some cases they're making a decision to come, especially a staycation, or if they're there coming with their spouse and they're just coming for a nice weekend, they want to know about the food and beverage. So it's definitely every day we're making different decisions about food and beverage for the hotels.
And to piggyback just off of what Joe's saying, our extended stay product with kitchens did much better during the COVID period where the lockdowns were in place because of the kitchens, and you could still go to the grocery store and cook, but without the restaurants being open, the select service without kitchens did not fare very well.
I see. And Joe, kudos to you. You said that you have donated some of the rooms to Tampa General Hospital doctors and nurses, all these frontline staff members, which is great. I really liked it. Even in the time of crisis, that your company is thinking about how it can help give back to the community. And Randy, I know, again, your company has done an amazing thing, which in the beginning, of course, when all the hotels shut down, a lot of the employees had to be laid off, unfortunately. But your company created a fund to help those people just to at least get some grocery or whatever. Can you please tell a little bit about that, effort? And Plato, if you've done anything similar in terms of giving back, I will also ask you next. But those are the great examples that I really want to highlight, Randy.
Yeah, we took a look, and that was probably the toughest week of all of our lives as hoteliers, having to build up a company to the level that we are and look out on the horizon and say things are good, we're growing, we're year over year, we're building, we're developing third-party management contracts, and then overnight to say we're in a position where we've got to lay off 75 to 85% of our staff that have helped us get to where we are, because there is absolutely no revenue coming in, and we owe it to our owners, investors to make sure we minimize their losses in this stage. So the principals in the company, executive leadership team got together and said, how can we help soften the blow? And John McKibben's a tremendous, compassionate servant leader, and he always has been. And he said, this is going to feel like a month of Sundays for a lot of people. And what can we do? And when you wrestle around at ideas how to give out, we knew unemployment was going to be there. We didn't know about the federal monies at that point yet, but we wanted to immediately offer some cushion so people would have grocery money and funds. So we put together a fund, and we're able to give people $200 pay period every 2 weeks until the funds ran out, which was just recently. So when they got unemployment and they got the federal funds, it was an addition to. So a lot of them during that time when they couldn't work remained whole, or in some cases were better than whole. So it just, our thoughts were, we really want to keep them top of mind. We know we're going to hire them back, and we know they were a part of our team, and we want to bring them back, and hopefully keeping them somewhat on the payroll. That would help them make the decision to come back to work for McKibben when this is all over with.
Wonderful. And that's even worth mentioning even more. You decided this before the PPP program came about, so which is so nice. Plato, anything from your company? Did you have any kind of initiatives that helped the employees at this difficult times?
Yeah, and again, what Randy said, overnight we had to lay off a lot of people, but we did it in a way to kind of to make it as soft as possible to assist them. And, we get to a point we start rehiring, so it was hopefully a temporary, 2-month event. So as you know, some of our hotels are in university towns with universities. We have assisted a lot of people got stuck. They couldn't go home. They couldn't come home. Dormitories were closed. So we assisted, worked with some universities and hosting some of their international students, but also students from the West Coast, that, again, the plane's not flying, so people cannot go home, and, you start to get desperate. So we have opened up some rooms, to that segment, to the student population. And we have a couple of properties in hospital campuses. And again, we mobilized there, we got ready. The good thing is we were ready and to host, family members and members of the medical staff. The bad thing and the good thing is, I think there was a huge overreaction. We were expecting thousands of people to get sick, to be hospitalized, ventilators, and at least in Pennsylvania where we are, that did not happen. So it's so we were ready, but the numbers were minimal, to say the least. So it's
which is good. Yeah. Thank you so much. So I still have more questions, but I would like to just go to the audience. The questions are coming from them. So I would like to bring one viewer's question to you, and this question open to any of you, whoever would like to feel that they would like to say. Dori Dawari, do you in any form count on direct, indirect support of different travel associations like AHLA, for example, or Brand USA, or destination management organizations for overcoming this crisis? For example, do you benefit from the data they provide? Anybody would like to take this question?
Well, we're tied in with Visit Tampa, which is the DMO for Tampa, and we share a lot of data with them, and they certainly get a hold of a lot of data. Most of the time, we find out that when you take the data, when it's blended across lots and lots of different hotels, we've got to kind of break it down by hotel, because right now the beach hotels are all filling up. If you've got a hotel on the beach or a marina, our property down in Anna Maria is sold out all the time. I wish I had 10 of those right now. The urban hotels, not so much. The convention hotels, not so much. But all the people that have beach hotels. So it's a little bit of the DMOs. You got to make sure that you can get the information broken down. But they also have the same challenges. The DMOs, they rely on bed tax revenue to be funded, and the bed tax revenue has completely dried up. And so they had to furlough a whole lot of people, and which is really bad for a destination, because you need that marketing organization to get things going again when the time is right. So that's going to be a challenge for a little while.
Thank you. Anybody else want to take this question?
I just would say the benefit from working with national organizations that do have an understanding of the trends. We have been able to find out who is traveling, and the government business that is out there working with National Guard on housing the National Guard for testing sites. So when we were in touch with the national organizations, it really helped us plug into the business that was traveling, although it was very minimal. It did help us in some markets.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I want to bring another question from one of our other viewers, Sedan Doğan. She is saying that, do you think COVID-19 situation might be a good opportunity to implement the automation and adopt the automated processes for your hotels? So I want to add that one. I know that all of your hotels, you're using technology to a certain extent, but do you think that COVID is going to kind of like encourage you to use these automated systems more, such as maybe robots in the back of the house, in the restaurant, or front of the house to take the towels or food delivery to the rooms, or maybe implementing keyless entry with the cell phone so that there is no contact there. Those are just two examples that come to my mind. Anybody want to take that question?
I think it's going to speed up the process. As an industry, we were heading towards automation, maybe not as fast, but I think the keyless entry, using your device to get information, we put those codes in every table where, you put your cell phone and you get the menu, and you can order through your cell phone instead of a bar. So there are a lot of small changes all through, but at the end of the day, I always want to remind people, we're in the hospitality industry, and you're always going to have the human interaction, so technology won't overcome all the customer service tasks. I think cleaning rooms, again, you need the human element. I don't think a robot will ever replace somebody cleaning a room, especially now, with all the new expectations. But I think, is it the booking, the ordering part, even the parking part, the valet parking part, there's no more, less human physical interaction. It's all done, by technology. So it's pushing the speed of process, but it won't replace the human element.
Great. Thank you, Plato. Anybody else want to take that question? Randy, Joe? If not.
No, I think the keyless entry is the big one. If you didn't have it, you've got to have a plan in place to get it in the works, because that contactless and allowing the guests to go directly to their room is a big amenity at this point.
Yeah, and the hovering, where you can take your phone and hover it over the indicia for the menu in the restaurant. Mm-hmm. That's pretty neat. You don't have to pick up or touch a menu now. You just hover your phone over it, and the menu of the restaurant pops up on your phone.
With the QR code, right?
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
A lot of them you can pay your check with a barcode.
Exactly.
So you're not handling a check and a pen and everything else. You're doing everything right on your phone.
Who would have thought that money is so filthy now? So filthy money.
Yeah, absolutely. And WhatsApp just announced, I don't know if you heard about it or not, but just recently, a couple of days ago, they are now testing a new digital wallet. So people will be able to commerce by using WhatsApp money, digital money. So that's probably going to change a lot of things as well, too. So that money may disappear, even the plastic portion of it, like not the credit card. So I want to bring, I have a question from Dr. Pat Morio, but before him, I just want to bring this question. This viewer, Osman Khan, is asking you if you are looking at different target audiences rather than traditional. He's given an example, people who work from home, let's say to hold meetings or etc. Is there anything, in your opinion, because of COVID-19, your target market is going to change? Or do you think it's going to be, again, that business travelers and leisure travelers?
I think it's going to be a challenge for a little while, and because if you read the surveys, people are learning that they can conduct business through these Zoom meetings, just like we're doing right now. And some of the companies out there are going to say, "Gosh, do we really need to spend all that money on travel?" I think one of the things that will work well for us, and a message that we need to get out there, is the first time somebody that's in sales and they see their customer having a glass of wine and having dinner with one of their competitors, and they're trying to conduct business or close a deal via Zoom, and their competitor has gone ahead and gone to have a face-to-face meeting, and you're building that rapport. So from a sales standpoint, I do think there's always going to be that very, very strong inclination to want to go have physical face-to-face interaction with people. We did a big program in our ballroom for a graduation ceremony where 6 different families for the graduation, they all had their own table, and then they put the graduation ceremony up on the big screen in the ballroom, and then everybody had their own dinner at a table. So everybody could have a group gathering to have their kids' graduation from college, and then they put it up on the deal. So I do think there'll be some unique opportunities like that, but it'll be an evolution for sure.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Randy?
Everybody's wondering what the new normal is going to be like, and who's going to go to market first with implementing or lifting their travel bans and restrictions that they put on. We've heard several large companies and tech companies saying travel bans through even mid next year. But to Joe's point, there are some deals you cannot close over the phone and on the computer. Travel is an important part of business. If you're doing deals and sites and partnerships, you're going to want to have face-to-face interaction. So there will be some that won't feel comfortable conducting face-to-face meetings for quite some time. But we're hoping that as things just lighten up and there's a vaccination out there, the more prevalent of the testing and people are basically surviving like Joe has about with COVID, that we'll get a group immunity and we'll get back to normal, especially in our industry.
Great. Plato, anything from
Yeah,
your
I
end?
think, through every crisis, we go through the same exercise. Meetings will be dead. Everything will be done online. I mean, most people I'm talking to, everybody's sick and tired of Zoom meetings. So there's a pent up human need to have human interaction. I think it's a matter of time. It's a matter of, again, getting the confidence back. Again, going back to the 9/11, nobody would get on a flight for the next 3-6 months after the tragic events. But again, it's human nature that you need to meet face to face. I think corporations are mostly using the travel ban more as a business and economic reason, not totally related to the virus. At the end of the day, they need to meet the customer. They need to entertain the customer. They're going to need to be on a trade show to show off their product. They're going to need to have a sales meeting in person. Again, that's the human nature. I think it's the only debate that's out there is how long will it take to get back to a normalcy. So,
Right. It appears right now that people kind of like found a way that they have to learn how to live with COVID. It appears that it's not going to go away very quickly. And a lot of people are saying that, enough is enough. So they go, at least in Florida, Joe and Randy, since you live here, it's pretty much business as usual. Maybe not in the hotel travel as you have already mentioned, but it will come. So my next question is regarding this one. I know that you don't have a magic wand in your hand, a magic ball to be able to tell future, but as the president of hotel companies, what is your outlook for future? Some people say 2020 is a lost year. 2021 is going to be recovery, and 2022 is going to be back to normal. Do you believe that? I mean, I just want to ask you your opinion about the future. What is holding us from the hotel investors' point of view? Anybody would like to take this question?
well, that's a tough one. That's why nobody's. It's anybody's guess. But it's interesting to go through. Again, I mentioned a lot of our properties, our markets depend on university, Big Ten conferences, ACC conferences, our students coming back to colleges. Our football game's going to be 35% occupied stadiums, 50% occupied stadiums, entertainment, concerts, professional sports. I mean, there is such a huge lack of, I call it all part of the entertainment and sports industry that's really holding the economy back. Again, I think this season is half lost. I mean, from what we hear, at least the big schools, will have a 35% occupancy on their stadiums. I don't think concerts are coming back to arenas, by, the next 3-4 months. I think it all ties up with, the potential development of a vaccine or a cure or something that's going to give more confidence to the consumer to kind of get out of the house and go somewhere to do something. So I think, the notion this year is half gone. It's gone. I think next year it should be more, normal. Again, there is a pent up demand. Again, meetings have to happen, conferences have to happen, conventions have to happen. I think it's maybe, mid of next year. And, again, I hope that's a pessimistic outlook, but I'll take it.
Okay, thank you, Plato. Joe, obviously you are, I don't know, Plato and Randy, if you are traveling right now, but Joe, you looks like you're on the road right now. So you looks like that you passed it. And I don't know, is this because of your personal view in terms of travel, or is it because that you had the
Antibodies.
antibody in your system. Tell us about that. What is your outlook also along with that one as well too?
Yeah, so I haven't missed any time at all. I've been in the office every day. It's just the nature of what I've needed to do to keep things going right now through the crisis. But we have got, I don't know, $250 million of hotels under construction right now. So I still got to go and physically go and see it and go meet with people. And I just can't do all that by phone. So yeah, I traveled. Atlanta airport was relatively busy. I'll be honest with you. I in the main concourses there was a lot of people. 90% were wearing masks. You can't get on the airlines now. You can't get on a plane without wearing a mask. So they left all the middle seats empty. They clean the plane. They give you your own little set of wipes. And so I felt pretty good on the airplane. Everybody was wearing a mask. And so, I'm just keep trucking ahead. And part of it maybe because I already had the COVID already. So for sure, I'm not feeling quite as concerned maybe as others. But at the same time, the people I'm meeting with, for the most part, most of them are pretty fastidious. And I just did a presentation at a city council. And everybody had a mask on. I asked them if it was okay because I was standing far enough back that if I took my mask off, were they okay with that? And because I was, 20 feet away from them, they were fine with that. Because I do have a hard time, wearing the mask and trying to talk. They can't see my face. They can't see my humor or anything like that. So I'm not, it's tough. But I'm also being responsible about that. So it's part of the deal.
Great, thank you. Randy, how about you? What is your current situation in terms of travel and your outlook for the future?
We've same as Joe. Our office was open. We allowed people to work from home. We did put travel restrictions on. Certainly, the safety of our associates. There wasn't a great deal of travel needed into our hotels just because of the low volumes and the support that they needed. So we could do a lot of that remotely. But as the work from home and stay-at-home orders were lifted, we've gotten back into, we're making property visits. We're opening a hotel in Lakeland later this week. We're doing grand opening out at one of the beach properties here we manage for the Page family next week. So there's quite a bit of activity that feels business as usual, and it's good to see. Numbers aren't there yet, but we spoke earlier about confidence, and I think as people travel leisurely, and that's the leisure traveler is really the only thing we have in our hotels right now, an absolute necessity. But as you travel for leisure, then I think you're going to say, I can make a business trip. If you travel for business trip, you think I can book a meeting or a small group, and it's just going to kind of build upon what we don't know is this bump just going to be just for the summer because school's out and we have this pent-up leisure demand and people are just anxious to get out of the house and eager. Is it going to go right back down when school starts, or is it going to build from what we're seeing right now? And then, what does 2021 look like? We'll finish this year probably optimistically 50% of RevPAR of 2019, and to build on that, if occupancy even comes back next year, we'll probably be 25% down in rate. And as everyone knows, ADR is where the profitability is and where the revenues come from. So when you're that far down in rate, it's hard to make adjustments to maintain your margins. And that's a big push right now from our, how can we protect these assets so we make sure we're managing them next year and the next year and the next year. And it's a big part of our business right now that the banks are nervous about is if business doesn't come back, are the hotels going to create enough revenue to pay the notes?
Wonderful. Thank you. We've got about 10 more minutes left. I just would like to ask you one of the questions that one of our viewers has brought in. As you know, President Trump yesterday signed an executive order that banned all H-1 visas, work visas, and J-1 visas, temporary work visas. I know that some of you maybe, Plato, I know that your hotel group is using at some extent, to some extent, this J-1 exchange visitors or
Yeah,
senior
I
employees,
mean, over the last 3, 4, 5
Yeah.
years, they once were a
So
huge
do you think
component
it's going to
for
impact
us.
you?
It's hard to tell because, at the same time, you see the unemployment rate and,
45 million people.
you don't know what that number will look like. Plus, to be honest with you, right now, we have a hard time getting people back because, the federal unemployment assistance, has brought the rates. A lot of people make more money staying home than going to work. That will expire, or hopefully it expires by July 31st. And then we'll see how the employment situation will change. Again, I think J1, hopefully it's a temporary thing. Again, it's too early to tell if we're going to need the assistance of J1s for next season. But again, there's so many unknowns right now. And if you don't mind going back to the previous question, talk about the desire to travel, just to give you a little bit the feel what's happening up here in the Northeast. Still half the states, we're still under lockdown. So even if you want to travel, you're not allowed to travel. You're not allowed to have people in your office. You cannot pull off the highway and use a restroom. The restaurants are closed. So you guys in Florida are a little bit spoiled. Life is difficult, but go up from Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, it's a whole different world, which, very restrictive, very prohibitive for commerce to function and allow kind of the liquidity, the transactions to happen, for a simple thing, going to your supermarket or going to a grocery store, it's still very restrictive. So again, it's starting to loosen up. We're celebrating. We're going from some of those markets from a 10% occupancy to a 30% occupancy, and you think we hit the jackpot. So it's really the economic impact is felt differently in the whole nation. And again, Florida was much more open than the Northeast, and we see the positive results. We have 23 properties in the state of Florida. They're obviously the only properties that are busy, but you move up to the Northeast, it's still a lot of towns are ghost towns. So
I see. Wow. Joe and Randy, is this visa ban gonna impact you whatsoever? Do you think?
Not so much for us. No, we don't. We don't currently have a hotel that has a lot of that employment base. We did manage a hotel previously, and it had a huge amount of that. It would have been a problem, but for our hotels right now, no.
And same here. Not in our markets and size of hotels. And our first priority is going to be to hire back former employees.
Employees, right? Hopefully, we'll have that problem. Right, that's a good problem to have.
Yes.
Those are the days. Okay, I would like to bring as one of our last questions here, Dr. Pat Morio, who's the Dean of College of Hospitality at University of South Florida for Hospitality College. And this question, I also had it for you. What thoughts do you have for convincing young people that hospitality management would still be a good thing to study in school and work in? Randy, I'll start with you. Please tell us your thoughts. And obviously, you are in this industry. You're not going to leave just because one crisis hit. But how do we explain this to the future workforce, on your current even employees, for that matter?
Yeah, and this is a very much a ground floor industry that you can get in as a part-time. We're a hotel employee. You can learn one position, go to the next. So it's a difficult time at the moment to get a job or even start your career in the hospitality industry because demand is not there and unemployment is so high and so many layoffs have happened. But if you're looking at starting a career, you have to start somewhere. So finding a company that is growing, has projects in development, has opportunities to grow their third-party management platform, has a training program. If they're going to invest in you, especially during times like this, they're going to want to make sure you're around to accept a job when that job comes open. So we work a lot in university towns on recruitment and talent and But we like to get those students at FGCU, USF, working in our hotels while they're going to school, even if it's part-time, just to get the exposure, because that opens the door for them to go into a management and training program, which opens the door to get into a manager and help us open hotels or transition hotels. So although it's a bad time to be graduating and looking for your career to start, we're a very cyclical industry. This just has to be the bottom of the bottom for us as far as cycles go, and it's going to be a longer recovery. But the benefit that your students have is they're young and they've got an entire career ahead of them. So every month is going to be better than the last, and every year is going to be better than the previous. And then we're going to get into another cycle, but there is nowhere to go but up from where we currently are. So we try to be optimistic and send that message. And I would absolutely say this is 100% the direction they still need to take if they truly have a passion for hospitality and service.
Great. Thank you, Randy. Joe, what about you?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. Hotel business is a great business. I've been in it since I was 14 years old. I started as a dishwasher. It's a fun business. Hospitality business is a fun business. I mean, you've got everything from the culinary side to event management. I mean, you could be at a hotel where you've got some huge big show going on and then some really cool thing happening upstairs in the restaurant. There's just a lot of things going on in our business. And it's also a business, if you've got the right attitude and you do have that kind of spirit to serve and good hospitality skills, you can move really fast. People are noticed when they have good hospitality skills, and they move up very quickly in our business. And so I would still say, even though, like Randy said, I mean, this is the bottom of the bottom. It doesn't get any worse than this in our business right now. I mean, to go to 5% occupancy, I can't imagine, but we'll come out of it. And I'm guessing that when there is that comfort and there is a vaccine or whatever, I think it's going to come back quicker than most people think. And then all of a sudden, we're going to be needing a lot of people. And that's why Randy said we've tried to keep people tethered to us by paying benefits and doing some things, because for a while there, it was hard to find good people. The last cycle we just went through up until February of this year, we were all struggling to find really good people in our business. Now, of course, there's a lot of people that have been laid off and that are out there, but the good people always shine through. And if you really like the business and you're in it for the right reasons, you'll do well no matter what.
Thank you. Plato, you have quite a few hotels in the university towns. So what is your advice or thoughts about this particular topic there for the young generations who are in the hospitality colleges or thinking about hospitality as a career?
Yeah, look, Joe and Randy are young too, so we're all young. But the nice thing, about the hospitality business, it's a long-term business. It's here to stay, and also it's a global business. Again, the growth in the industry. I mean, hotels are being built not only in Florida but throughout the U.S. I mean, they're all building still hotels. Again, the whole world is, building hotels. It's I think after agriculture, the hospitality industry is one of the largest industries worldwide. So, think big, think global, think everybody's desire is it no matter what region you're from, everybody's desire is to travel. It's number one or two on the bucket list, and we kind of see it now. Talking to people and surveys that are coming out, people are ready to kind of hit the road. Travel and interact. So if you like that part of the business, really there is no good or bad time. Yeah, it's tougher now, but I think things will get better, and people with the right attitude, the right personality will not only love this business but excel, because the upward mobility is great. We all started from the front desk or from the kitchen. We stuck with it and we grew within an industry. Again, it's a growing industry, and there are always going to be speed bumps. Every decade there's a speed bump, and every speed bump is a different type of a speed bump. But stick with it. Again, we need a lot of good people out there, and the younger generation, well-educated people, I think will do real well long term.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you all. Thank you so much. And I would like to just show one comment from our viewer who asked a question earlier. He says that I run a training and consulting business. We do a lot of work in hotels. The good news that a lot of my customers want to meet face to face. We had a lot of projects postponed but not canceled. So I agree with Osman Khan here, who made this comment, and you obviously agree as well too. As the confidence disappeared about a month, I think, right, middle of March, at least for US, Florida, I'm talking about, until the mid-April when we see the effects. I think social media is also gonna help. So Joe, I encourage you to post some videos if you have social media accounts about the Atlanta airport. The fact that you told us that the airport was busy used to be something negative, right? People didn't like busy airports. Today, when you gave me that news, unfortunately, I didn't travel myself since March, but I'm very eager to travel. There is a lot of, the research shows that there is a travel appetite. People, just like you have said, social animals, right? We are social. We have to have that. I mean, I love you all, and I'm very happy to see you virtually here, but when we meet, when we hug each other, when we eat together, it's a different feeling. We all know that. And I think that people need to see more and more pictures and news about what happens in airports, and people really survive. And we learn, we modify how we live, just like you modified your hotels, as you outlined before. It is 1 hour, which is perfect timing. In conclusion, I would like to give you a minute or so just to make your conclusion remarks, and then after that we will close. Plato, let's start with you at this time. Please tell us your closing remarks.
Look, again, as I mentioned before, it's a speed bump. We are all in it together. Again, I believe in the human element, the willingness to interact, to travel. We'll get through it. It's not going to be easy. It's a learning curve for all of us. Again, we have been 30 plus years in this business. This is a crisis. We are learning something every day. Is it, with employees, associates, customers, lenders, but kind of like sometimes I need to remind myself that's what makes it fun. It's not a stale business. It's an evolutionary business, but we welcome the younger generation and the younger executive to join us and go through a great trip in this business. So thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you, Plato. Joe, how about you?
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed this. Good to be with a couple of my cohorts here. I know Plato and Randy, they would love to see me because they really want to hug me too.
Virtual hugs, Joe. Virtual hugs.
Randy may want to kiss me. I don't know. It's definitely separate the men from the boys. In terms of right now, it's a tough time. There's no question about it. We're learning a lot. I mean, all of us are doing these break-even analysis. Is like, what can we operate this hotel at? And we're learning a lot. It's kind of like going back almost to a bed and breakfast mentality, where you have the general manager checks a guest in, and the general manager brings them their food to their room, and you really have to almost kind of have that mentality if you're going to open. Otherwise, in some cases, you're deciding to keep the hotel closed. So I'm the king of the silver linings. I could be on an airplane, it could be going down, and I'd be like, well, at least I don't have to worry about checking my bags. I don't worry about my bags. But the silver lining for me is we, as a team, we are learning a whole lot about how to operate these hotels. There was a little bit of job creep that was going on when the hotels were doing really well. I think everybody in our industry has learned there are some smarter ways we can operate these hotels more efficiently, no doubt. So we're learning something from it, and I'm happy to roll my sleeves up and get in there and learn some of that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. I agree with you. My son was working for Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Colorado, in a ski mountain, and he was laid off just like anybody else. But he was called back to the work, and he's now working as a night auditor. But he told me that he's the valet, he's the night auditor, he's the coffee person, room service at night. So he makes it. He does it, and he understands and appreciates it. Randy, last but not least, please give us your closing remarks.
I think really have to put where we are in perspective. We're McKibben is a fourth generation, 94-year-old company, so they've gone through the Great Depression and World War I, World War II. You look at the timings of what our company's been through, and I'm entering my 30th year with the company. And when I look at the three economic downturns that we've been through, and then being hit with this, the hospitality professionals are a resilient bunch. Travel always comes back. Travel always evolves. The hotels that John McKibben took over when he took over the companies in the early 90s were dated Holiday Inns and Courtyard was coming along. So he knew to survive, we had to get on board with Courtyards, and then with Hilton, and then with Starwood, and now with Kimpton. And as you look at the evolution that we have been through in the past 94 years, we've created jobs and growth and opportunity. But had we not changed, we wouldn't still be in business. And not too many companies can say they've been in business for 94 years. And the one thing that we've had to do is listen to the customer, uncover new trends that are out there. And if you look where the trends were heading prior to COVID, people wanted to travel, experiential travel. Food and beverage was big, rooftop bars, socialization, certainly social media, and how we were embracing that as an industry. So my closing comments would be, we are a resilient industry. No 2 days are ever the same. We're constantly learning, evolving, growing, and then building from there. We're just doing it now at a level where we've never had to do it before. So we're knocked down, but we're certainly not out, and we're looking for opportunities for growth going forward.
Well said. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. I know you're so busy. I appreciate you sharing your time with me and our viewers. And I wish you the best of luck. And I hope that when we meet next time, that we will talk about the problems of not finding employees. And we'll be happy to produce you a lot of great students that you can hire at that time, hopefully. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and be safe. Have a nice travel to you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.